Have you ever imagined what it would feel like to be a rock and roll icon? The screaming fans, the #1 hits. Well, for many of us, a daydream is about as close as we're ever going to get. Unless, of course, you're like these musicians in eastern Kentucky, who found a way to tap into the experience in a unique way.
6 years ago, a friend of mine was going to have a Halloween party. He ran a haunted house in Harlan. It's a really cool haunted house, and he was going to close out the season with a big, a bunch of local bands playing. And he said, man, wouldn't it be cool if somebody would do a Kiss band?
Thus, Dressed to Kill was born in the mountains. They're regular guys with regular jobs, but put them through a couple of hours of makeup and wardrobe and give them a stage, and an incredible transformation takes place.
I've always been a big Batman fan my entire life. And one of the things that they always touch on in the comics is once he puts the mask on, he becomes a different person. And it's really the same thing. There's that transformation, but it's just natural.
It's definitely magic. I'll catch a glimpse of myself just in a reflection. I'll start cracking up on stage.
Everything the group wears is designed to replicate the actual band, from the custom jackets and chains, right down to the height of the platform shoes and heels.
This band almost forces you to be better because people come with an expectation.
Friday, the group performed at the annual Black Gold Festival in Hazard, in front of an audience of hundreds. Sitting in the crowd, there were moments I had to remind myself that I wasn't watching the real deal. It becomes clear to anyone paying attention that what the band does is more than simply cover songs. It's a presentation of true performance art, one they intend to ride for as long as the audience will allow it.
A lot of times people come to us after a show and they've never seen Kiss, so we are their Kiss show. And that when somebody comes up to me and says, hey, I've never got to see them, so this is the closest thing I've got. I love that. That's killer. Yeah.
Go big or go home. That's our motto. We go as big as we can and we ride the ride out until it stops.
Imitation is sometimes said to be the sincerest form of flattery. But after Friday's performance, I have to disagree with that sentiment. Imitation is just another way for folks to express themselves, in ways that channel their dreams and talent for others to see. And if we're lucky, that translates into one heck of a show. In Perry County, Eric Eckstrom, WYMT Mountain News.
First thing I do remember is kissing my wife out here in the driveway and pulling out.
There are many things in life we all take for granted. But for 39-year-old Martin Keith, he says he never imagined he would learn that truth just minutes after that kiss.
I went out for a short motorcycle ride, and I was just probably 2 miles up the road. And really from that point on, I don't remember anything.
He would eventually wake up to a fractured spine, complete paralysis from the waist down, limited mobility elsewhere. For his wife Vicki, she says the shock of that moment was almost too much to believe.
How do you sit there and look at somebody that 2 hours before that was full of life and you were laughing and you were talking and you were sharing your dreams, and then all of a sudden they're just empty. There's nothing there but a shell.
But while Martin and Vicki were navigating through dark waters, something they didn't expect was happening to their home back in Cumberland.
It had to be totally redone because it had to be handicap accessible. And so we went in and pretty much redid the floor and the roof and rewired it, things like that.
The project involved many thousands in donations and hundreds of volunteered hours as well. The result was a home Martin could live in with his family instead of a nursing home. And last Friday evening, after many months away, Martin was back home for the big reveal.
To see our brother come back from something we didn't know what his fate was going to be is just miraculous for us.
And after the cheers, tears, and hugs, Martin and Vicki were given the grand tour.
I don't know what inspired them. I would like to think that God just laid it on their heart.
I mean, I'm 39 years old and I've seen people, pull together for some things, but nothing like this. This was just unbelievable. It's going to give me the drive to keep pushing and get better.
Yes, there are many things in life we do take for granted. Things like love, family, and selfless gestures of kindness. But folks here say those things will never be overlooked again, for Martin Keith has made them a permanent fixture in their community. In Harlan County, Eric Eckstrom, WYMT Mountain News. The average American will live to see roughly 29,000 days. Some of those days will pass by unnoticed. Others we may strive to remember. But occasionally, a day comes along that, for better or worse, we will never forget.
There are things that we refer to before the flood and things we refer to after the flood. It's a marker in your life.
The ramifications on people's psychology lasted for years. In fact, I think most people, I'd say it's permanent.
On April 4th, 1977, more than 15 inches of rain fell across several major river basins in Kentucky and 4 other states. Overnight, cities and towns transformed into lakes and rivers. In the following years, folks would speak of that day with an emotional potency as though it had just happened.
I had a disturbed sleep last night, really anticipating rain.
Now 37 years removed, those memories are still vivid in the minds of those who were there.
I could stand on the edge of the mountain and look down, and trailers and trees and trash starting to pile up. So the whole entire town at the bottom of the hill was full of water.
Some local people that had boats were going up and down the street retrieving people from their homes. And we left our yard and left our house and got in the boat.
When the waters receded, 22 people had lost their lives. Those left were facing millions in damaged property. But in the midst of all the tragedy, folks say a beacon began to emerge as displaced residents found themselves homeless.
Those that lived above the flood area had guests for weeks and even months to come. My family and every other family had a similar experience. Somebody let them stay at their house. We had businesses let people stay in their business.
And it was the strength of that unity which they say would guide them through the heartbreak.
As time goes on, you realize there are very, very few precious things that you have in life. Very few. You don't ever forget that. You don't forget when people come to your aid.
There are some wounds time will never heal. But after 37 years, folks say that isn't the real story of what happened here. Instead, it was a moment in time when people pulled together, when everyone needed it most. And because of that, they say it will always be important to remember April 4th, 1977. In Harlan County, Eric Eckstrom, WYMT Mountain News. A high school graduation is often a celebration of new beginnings, a milestone for young men and women standing on the edge of tomorrow. But for one man at Magoffin County High School Friday, graduation was a return to yesterday and to an achievement more than 40 years in the making.
I'm going to be so proud that that's my daddy, and he's got what he's always looked for, and his dreams come true.
In 1970, Edward Collett was drafted into the United States Army. It was a call to service he says was an honor to fulfill. But leaving just a year shy of completing high school would weigh on his conscience in the following years.
I didn't know enough. I mean, the truth's the truth. I just didn't realize the opportunity that I was letting go by.
And so in the fall of 2013, he made the decision to finish what his military service had placed on hold, a journey educators at Magoffin County High School say was a privilege to accommodate.
For what he's done for this country and this community, it's just, you know, it's a great honor on our part to be able to do it.
Which brings us to May 30th, 2014, where Army Specialist 4th Class Edward Collett found himself back in uniform. Only this time, it was in the service of a dream that became a reality in front of an audience of hundreds.
It is absolutely one of the high points of my life. God's blessed me. So wonderful.
As a veteran, folks say Collett was a hero to his community long before graduating high school. But in doing so, all these years later, it's given them an entirely new reason to salute him. In Magoffin County, Eric Eckstrom, WYMT Mountain News.